Hey, I'm Gene Goldman. Here's a look at the week ahead for the week of June 17th. This week, it's going to be a pretty quiet week in terms of data. We're about a month away from the start of second quarter earnings season, and it's still too early to get June's economic data. However, with that said, one report we're going to watch very carefully with interest is the monthly retail sales report on Tuesday. There are all these worries that the consumer is weakening. The consumer, you and I, were under pressure because of high inflation, high borrowing costs, and the Fed pressuring the labor market by keeping interest rates high. But keep in mind, you and I as a consumer, we represent about 2/3 of the US economy. So the retail sales report essentially measures the health of us as a consumer via the sales of goods and services at the retail level. So Tuesday's report, the consensus expects retail sales to rise to 0.3%, up from April's unchanged level, as you see here. I expect this report to be a little bit lower for three reasons. Number one, inflation is slowing down, therefore falling prices are affecting sales levels. Number two, if you read the earnings reports from major retailers, they've all been suggesting that the consumer is slowing spending and instead focusing more on staples and less on expensive discretionary goods. And at the same time, retailers are also cutting prices on some goods. And then third of all, probably the most important point is that last week, we got the University of Michigan consumer sentiment reading. As you see here, this number dropped significantly and it came in much lower than expected. And some comments that came out from this report, there are worries about personal finances for consumers. There's also worries around weakening incomes, and there's also concerns about higher prices. You take all this together, we as consumers, we're starting to slow down our spending. So the big takeaway this week is that while manufacturing and housing have been weak for some time, one area that has helped keep our economy afloat has been the consumer. Now we're getting some clear signals that the consumer is starting to weaken a bit. This week's retail sales report should further highlight that the consumer is slowing spending a bit. At the end of the day, we still don't see a recession for the next 12 months because both manufacturing and housing, those areas that were in recession, are starting to stabilize, but we are still watching the consumer very, very carefully. Thanks for listening. For more information, please follow us on X at Cetera IM, and see you next week. Thank you so much.